Hello, welcome to Podcast with Pooja. Today we have with us Professor Guy Littlefair, who is the Pro Vice-Chancellor International and Dean of Faculty of Design and Creative Technologies at the Auckland University of Technology, New Zealand. In the past, Professor Littlefair has held successful roles as Pro Vice-Chancellor at Deakin University in Australia. Combined with an academic career spanning 25 years, Professor Littlefair has also led research teams in England, Australia, and now in New Zealand. Professor Littlefair, it's such a pleasure and honor to have you on this podcast episode with me.
Thank you very much, Pooja. The honor is all mine, believe.
Thank you so much. So I'm sure, like me, my listeners are equally excited to hear your thought process. So without further ado, let's get started. So we'll take the first question. Would love to know your thoughts on the future of education in India as well as New Zealand, and how do you think, how can these two countries work together, collaborate in order to create more awareness about the opportunities for students both pre as well as post education?
One thing we need to consider is, since the pandemic, the world has changed so much. The skills shortages that we're now seeing across the world are significant. The rise of artificial intelligence and how that's going to change the world of work. Many of the traditional careers that people were thinking of are going to be revolutionized by artificial intelligence. So it's important for all countries, all jurisdictions to be aware of that and to develop education systems which support not only skills, but support students learning through the span of their careers. One of my colleagues at AUT talks about the importance of entrepreneurship skills. And when we think about the future, many of our students won't go into work. They'll actually not be job takers, but they'll be job creators in their own right. With respect to India and New Zealand specifically, coming back to your question, India obviously is going through some massive reforms in its education policy, and it's very exciting to see. Many countries across the world are looking very closely at the developments of what's happening here in India. I've certainly had conversations with ministers in our new government in New Zealand about the fact that we need to do more in India. We need to support education opportunities and the exchange, the mobility of students and the opportunities for exchange between New Zealand and India. The future, I think, is looking extraordinarily bright for both countries, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how things unfold in the next few years.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that thoughtful input. And I'm sure we can see the kind of relationship that has been grown between the two countries. So the future looks good. Thank you so much for that input, Mr. Littlefair. We go with the next question. What are some of AUT International's most successful programs and initiatives? And what impact has this program had on Indian students?
One of our most popular programs, and this was developed around about 15 years ago, is the Master of Construction Management. It's a one-year master's program. We've had many Indian students come through that program, and many of those students, when they've graduated, they've stayed in India. Other successful programs for our students that come from India would be the Master of Supply Chain Management, Master of Project Management. But one of the reasons that I'm here in India on this trip, this 4-week trip, really is to explore other opportunities for Indian students. So AUT is pretty much a comprehensive university, and I'm interested in understanding what the opportunities are for students to come and study with us in not those traditional areas perhaps, but other areas. Sports science, we're very strong in sports science, but also in the allied health area, as well as education.
Okay, thank you so much. This actually takes me to the next question, since you also mentioned about the new areas of study. So yes, New Zealand is known for its innovative spirit and its focus on sustainability. So what are some of the emerging and innovative areas of study for students, those who wants to go beyond engineering, business and the likes?
Yeah, that's right. So those traditional areas where we've been very strong will always be strong there. But what are the other opportunities? One area that I'm quite excited about is we've now developed an undergraduate and postgraduate degree in architecture. We're also very strong in art and design, and just today we were speaking to the college here in Mumbai around opportunities for design. But also hospitality management. We're one of the only, in fact, I think we're the only university in New Zealand that offers hospitality management, and obviously there's great demand in India for that. And as I said, part of the reason that I'm here on this extended trip is to visit different regions, because different regions in India have different demands and students have different interests in studying with us. So I'm keen not only to explore what those are, but also how we can support more of the regions when the students think about traveling to New Zealand to study.
Absolutely. So yes, India has diversity, and with different locations, different areas, different interests can be seen. It's really an honor that, a profile person like you is here in India to understand what the market demands. Thank you so much. Would love to know, how is AUT International working to promote the cultural understanding and collaboration among Indian students?
Oh, that's a great question. The first time I came to India was over 30 years ago. I fell in love with India, fell in love with the people, fell in love with the food, but certainly fell in love with the culture. Yeah. So since I've been the Pro Vice-Chancellor International, I've had a real passion to bring that cultural exchange and that cultural opportunity on both sides, so between India and New Zealand. New Zealand has a rich culture. We're very proud of our Māori culture and our Pacific culture within the country. What we've been doing recently is investing significant sums in the international student experience. Students choose to go overseas to study, not just for the qualification, not just for the credential, but also to have a wonderful experience whilst they're there. So this year we ran a very large Diwali festival, and you can have a look on YouTube and other platforms to see that. And my boss, my Vice-Chancellor, is really happy when he's speaking about the Diwali event. Also, in terms of cultural activities, right now we have a group of some of our engineering students. 10 of our engineering students are at the IIT in Chennai, IIT Madras. They're there for 4 weeks on a study tour, and we're sincerely hoping that we can have students from India come over to New Zealand and spend some time with us. We've also had 2 interns this year come over to New Zealand, again from IIT Madras. And earlier in the week, I was at Manipal University, and we're engaging with Manipal again around the opportunities for student exchange, both inbound and outbound. Very, very dedicated to making a difference around that cultural activities for all of our students.
Absolutely. So yes, I really like this point when you mentioned about students celebrated Diwali in AUT Technologies. So basically this shows the kind of culture, the respect that these two countries have for each other. And I'm definitely, you can find the link of the video which Mr. Littlefair mentioned in the captions of my video. Thank you so much. Just would love to know, of course, we spoke about really great things, but I'm sure that there are a couple of challenges that Indian students face when it comes to studying in New Zealand. So would love to know your thoughts on how is your university helping these students overcome any basic challenges that they might have.
I think we need to be mindful that it's a challenge for any international student going overseas to study, whether that's in Canada or New Zealand or the US or the UK. One of the advantages New Zealand has is it's a relatively small country. It's a very friendly country. It's a very welcoming country. In the city of Auckland, where AUT is based, I think there's more than 130 languages spoken, and there's a very large Indian community there. I think one of the things that happens with international students when they first travel to a foreign country for their study is they can become isolated and they can become lonely. We're very cognizant of that fact. So we put a lot of effort into clubs on campus, activities on campus. We also put a lot of investment into helping students find part-time work. We have what's called an employability lab on campus, which connects employers with students, both for part-time work, but also for work after they graduate. We also have a student hub, which is a one-stop shop for students. So whether they're seeking medical care or advice around finances or advice around study or help with their study plans, there's a one-stop shop on campus to aid them. The other thing is that because AUT is a really global university, one of the rich things that it brings, one of the rich things that it delivers is that diversity on campus. So when I look at the faces on campus on a typical day, there are many, many people from such different diverse backgrounds, and it really feels like a melting pot in New Zealand of the clash of cultures and the excitement of different cultures. It's a very welcoming and warm place.
I'm sure. Great, thank you so much. And this takes us to the last question of this episode. Do you feel that Auckland University of Technology is poised to do heavy lifting in case the scenario between India as well as Canada doesn't change?
I can assure you that AUT International is prepared to do any heavy lifting, no matter what the situations and what the circumstances are. What I see is that right now in the world, New Zealand is probably the best international destination for students. We've seen some shifts, change in policy in the UK, for instance, around visas for students and their dependents. We've certainly seen interesting developments in Canada, as you mentioned. But also Australia, whilst it's a fabulous destination, and in your introduction you mentioned the fact that I worked in Australia. I hold an Australian passport as well as a New Zealand passport, so I'm a proud Australian and a proud Kiwi as well. But nonetheless, there has been some changes in Australia too. So I really think that New Zealand is positioning itself as a great destination. I often describe New Zealand as being a country on the edge of the world. It's also the last country in the world to have been discovered, but it does offer great opportunities for students, both in terms of the quality of the education that we provide and also in terms of the opportunities beyond graduation. So there's good employment opportunities. There's been fairly recent changes around post-study work rights, which our audience can simply look up on the government website. Also, we've got a new government in power now, recent change of government, and all of the indicators are that they see international education as a very important part of the future of New Zealand. An interesting fact, perhaps, if we turn the clock back to 2019, before the pandemic, international education was New Zealand's 5th biggest export. It's a very important piece of our economy. International education is not just about the money that flows into the university. Often I talk about the value of international education, the value of international students, and that value goes well beyond the university. It goes towards the city, it goes towards tourism, it goes towards the fact that many of our international students study and also work part-time. So they fill jobs and they make a real contribution to the city. They spend their dollars in our cafes and in our restaurants. So with respect to the heavy lifting that's going to be needed, we are absolutely ready. We established an office here in Mumbai 2 years ago. That's paid a tremendous dividend. We now have people here in India in the right time zone available for inquiries to make a difference. And when we look at the other main countries, we've also developed offices there too. So absolutely, we're ready for any heavy lifting that might come along.
Great, quite positive, and I can definitely see with the kind of sessions that you have been having, I'm sure Indian students are excited to know more about New Zealand and even go abroad and do their studies over there. Wishing you all the best. Thank you so much for your time today. It was a pleasure having you on this podcast show.
Thank you so much, Pooja. It's been my pleasure too. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.